How's it going, guys? My name's Wilson. Some of the most talented NBA champions includes the 2017 Golden State Warriors, 4 All-Stars, all in their primes. The 1983 Sixers also had 4 All-Stars. But today, we'll talk about the least talented NBA champions, not the worst NBA title teams, but the ones with the least amount of talent, combined with the lack of star power, winning it all. A lot of these teams are well coached, has the best chemistry, and knocked off more talented opponents with more star power. With that said, here are 10 of the least talented NBA champions all time. Number 10, the 1995 Houston Rockets. The team won just 47 regular season games, more talented than the team the previous year, only because of adding Clyde Drexler before the deadline. Was already 32 years old, still a great player, but no longer his superstar self. Wasn't named to the All-Star team that season, averaged 21 for the Rockets, while Hakeem, the best player in the league, had a bunch of role players. Robert Horry, third leading scorer in the playoffs. Third best player Vernon Maxwell had issues with the team, frustrated with not playing much, averaged 13.3 points through 64 games, had a 10-game suspension for charging at a fan, complained of a hamstring injury first game of the playoffs. Later revealed he faked the injury, being out the rest of the way. Hakeem then dominated, having one of the best playoff runs all time, averaged 33 points. Every team he faced had a more talented roster. Utah with Malone and Stockton, Hornacek, Phoenix, Barkley, Kevin Johnson, Wesley Person, Dan Marley, San Antonio, David Robinson, prime Sean Elliott, prime Avery Johnson, and Dennis Rodman. Orlando's big three of Shaq, Penny, and Horace Grant. Dream absolutely destroyed, abused, annihilated, and humiliated every one of his opponents. Every one of the teams he's faced had a decent chance in winning the title. Even some of the teams Houston didn't face, like New York and Seattle, have more talent. Goes to show how amazing prime Hakeem was. Knocked off 2 number 1 seeds, a number 2 and number 3, the toughest title run in NBA history, no question about that. Number 9, the 2006 Miami Heat. Many gonna come at me saying, but they had Shaq. Yes, they did, but he was already declining, no longer Lakers Shaq. A bunch of knowledgeable Heat fans believe the 05 team was actually better than the 06 team, since Shaq was better and almost won MVP, wasn't even close to being a candidate in 06. It was clearly D Wade's team. Miami was actually dysfunctional the first half of the season. Pat Riley got rid of Stan Van Gundy, taking matters into his own hands. O'Neal missed 23 games with injury, averaged just 20 and 9, his worst season up to that point. Antoine Walker, a role player, alongside Jason Williams, each averaged a dozen points. Gary Payton, already 37 years old, second to last season. Alonzo Mourning, 35, no longer his former self. Off the bench, 3-and-D James Posey and the young athletic Udonis Haslem. The 3 most talented team all season were the 64-win Pistons, who had issues with Flip Saunders, the 63-win Spurs, and the 60-win Mavs. Better all-around teams than the Heat. Wade was the best player every series, single-handedly carried that team as the alpha dog, despite getting all the calls in the finals in games 3, 5, and 6. O'Neal averaged under 14 points, outscored by teammate Antoine Walker and Dallas's Josh Howard. It was Shaq's legit last good season. Many second options like Pippen for the 90s Bulls and Kobe in 2000, way better than 06 Shaq. This Miami team died down quicker in the blink of an eye with their age, getting blown out by 42 by the Bulls the following season's opening night. One of the least talented championship teams. Wade had to put up a Jordan-esque performance for the team to have a chance. 2011 Dallas Mavericks. Superstar Dirk Nowitzki earned all the praise for beating all the best players along the way. 57 wins, got revenge against Wade's Heat from 5 seasons back. Jason Kidd, already 38 years old, the time the playoffs rolled around. Sean Marion, 32 and 33. Jason Terry, 33. Many forget Dallas's third leading scorer, Caron Butler, had a season-ending injury. Marion started at the 3 after. Terry averaged under 16 a game. The fact that Dirk's second best player came off the bench, incredible. The team clicked as a unit. Rick Carlisle did one of his best coaching jobs all playoffs, moved the ball around the perimeter to sweep the Lakers thanks to their outside shooting. Nowitzki taught the young Thunder, who was boss. The zone defense confused LeBron in the finals. A bunch of teams had better talent than the Mavs, but the coaching job, chemistry, Jason Terry shooting, and Dirk's greatness could not be stopped. One of the most well-earned titles ever. Number 7, the 1979 Seattle Supersonics. The team went 52 and 30, surely not the most talented. 24-year-old Dennis Johnson and big men Jack Sigma, 2 all-star backups in a time where Jabbar, David Thompson, Dr. J, George Gervin, and Moses Malone were the best players. Fred Brown a little past his prime, and future all-star Gus Williams. The main scorer for that team. The franchise went 40-42, no playoff berths 2 seasons before, won 47 games the previous year with a similar roster. Johnson easily a Hall of Famer. Sigma, the only other player on this team to make the Hall of Fame, didn't get until 2019, nearly 30 years after his retirement. Challenged and pushed to the brinks, Seattle survived the buzzer-beating miss in Game 6 by Phoenix, went on to beat the Suns in a close 7. Defensive-minded, allowed a league low, under 104 points. None of the players were voted on any All-NBA teams. The rotations and trappings led to their success. After falling to the Bullets in Game 1 of the finals, Seattle won 5 straight, overcame a double-digit deficit to close out Game 5. Williams averaged 28.6 points for the series. DJ Finals MVP, 22.5 points, 6-6, around 2 steals, 2 blocks. Sigma 16-15, a total team effort. Number 6. The 1978 Washington Bullets, the most unspectacular champion all time. The team finished 44-38, a record that wouldn't qualify for a Western Conference team to make the postseason in the 2000s. Yes, they had 2 top 100 players on their roster in Elvin Hayes and Wes Unseld, but both were past their primes. This wasn't anywhere close to the best Bullets teams in the 70s. The 75 runner-up team won 60 games. This team finished well behind the Sixers and Spurs, previously 0-8 in the finals. Bobby Danrich, the best player you never heard of, the go-to guy down the stretch, very underrated, shockingly not in the Hall of Fame, played terrific defense on Dr. J and George Gervin and scored in crunch time, the closer for that team. While best player Elvin Hayes, viewed as selfish and egotistical, the lone all-star for Washington that season, named as a replacement for the injured Billy Knight. Unseld wasn't the same talent-wise, made his final all-star team 3 years before. Portland was actually the heavy favorite before Walton went down that season. Key player Phil Chenier back from injury in time for the playoffs. Heading into the finals, Seattle the heavy favorite. After the Sonics took a 3-2 lead, Washington responded, winning by 35 in Game 6. Hayes fouled out early. Game 7 put up 12-8. It was Unseld's leadership and the brilliant play of Danrich combined with the role players helping the Bullets win its first ever franchise championship, a title nobody talks about. Number 5, the 1977 Portland Trail Blazers. Sensational big man Bill Walton might very well have been the top 15 player all time if fully healthy, arguably the second best college player behind Jabbar. Before his arrival, Portland won just 27 games, limited to 35 games his rookie season, 51 in year 2, 65 his third year, the most amount he's played with Portland in a single season, averaged 18.6 points, 14.5 rebounds, 4 assists, over 3 blocks, fantastic all-around player. Maurice Lucas averaged over 20 a game, while third option Lionel Hollins 15, and a bunch of players you never heard of, 49 wins. Walton, the only Hall of Fame player on the roster, upset David Thompson Nuggets in the semis, swept prime Kareem's Lakers in a shocking sweep. Blazer mania at its peak. What made their season so dramatic and special? One of the biggest finals turnaround ever. The heavy favorite Sixers led by Julius Erving threw down monstrous jams, giving the Sixers a 2-0 lead. Many expected a sweep, but a crazy fight broke out in Game 2 with Daryl Dawkins and Bob Gross tangled onto the floor. Dawkins then squared up with Maurice Lucas, going at it, lit a fire under the Blazers. That moment disrupted the Sixers' chemistry. A 129-107 Game 3 blowout win for Portland started out blazing in Game 4. Back to Philly, Walton's team defense was on another level, always shared the ball with his team. Portland closed out the series in a Raw in Game 6. Walton Finals MVP, 18.5 points, 19 rebounds, over 5 assists, nearly 4 blocks, simply a monster on both ends. The fans helped ignite the team all season. Even if the Blazers lost in those finals, they still would have been heavily remembered for their Cinderella story. Started 35-6 the following year, on pace for 70 wins. But Walton's MVP year cut short due to injury. Portland was the favorite to win it all in 78, way better than 77 when fully healthy, had a huge chance of repeating, but unfortunately, those injuries got the best of Walton. Number 4, the 2003 San Antonio Spurs. Tim Duncan at the height of his powers. Tony Parker, second best player on the team, only his second season, was 20 years old. Third and fourth best offensive options, Steven Jackson averaged under a dozen points, and Malik Rose off the bench. Ginobili, his first season, averaged just 7.6 points in regular season. David Robinson's final year, 8.5 points. Bruce Bowen, the perfect 3-and-D guy. The remarkable Duncan led the team to the best record, 60 wins with that supporting cast. That's why he deserved MVP. Many teams in the West, Kobe and Shaq's Lakers, Dirk, Nash and Finley's Mavs, Webber and Stojakovic's Kings, better talent than San Antonio. The Kings and Mavs had playoff injuries. Duncan brought his A game every series. Jackson and Parker showed up at times. Timmy's defense just as impressive. In one of the most boring finals all time, New Jersey won just 49 games in the Week East. Both teams averaged under 90 points for the series. The big fundamental denied the Nets in every way imaginable. Every one of Jersey's starters, besides Richard Jefferson, shot under 40% from the field, and RJ just 41 for the series. Duncan made an impact from all areas of the game. Anytime the second leading scorer is a 20-year-old second-year guy winning a title, it will always be impressive what the superstar accomplished. Number 3, the 1994 Houston Rockets. Prime Hakeem was as unstoppable as any big man in his era. After missing a bunch of games with injuries, not making the playoffs 2 seasons before, it appears Olajuwon was on his way out. Houston nearly made the conference finals in '93. Second leading scorer in that '94 team, Otis Thorpe, 31 years old, Vernon Maxwell, 13.6 points, role players Kenny Smith, young Robert Horry, Mario Elie, and rookie Sam Cassell. Houston tied for the 5th best odds after Jordan retired for the preseason title favorites. Many assume it'd be the Knicks and Suns, but Olajuwon took matters into his own hands, had one of the greatest individual seasons all time, won MVP, Defensive Player of the Year, Finals MVP, led his team in all 5 major statistical categories in the postseason, the only player to accomplish all those feats thus far. Elevated his performance more in the playoffs. Maxwell's second leading scorer, under 14 a game. Dream knocked off Drexler and Cliff Robinson's Blazers, 2 All-Stars. Barkley and Johnson's Suns, Stockton and Malone's Jazz, Ewing and Oakley's Knicks. All 4 of Hakeem's opponents each had 2 total All-Stars. Nobody outside of Dream was even close to being an All-Star for Houston. Poured in the 37-17 Game 7 versus the Suns, outplayed the previous season's MVP, got the best of Karl Malone, and dominated Patrick Ewing, averaged 27 in the finals, held Ewing to under 19 points on 36% shooting. Dream outscored Ewing every single one of those 7 games, proved why he was the best big man in the 90s, and not leaving any doubt, with second option Maxwell averaging under 14 once again in the finals. Everybody else 10 and below. New York had Starks, Harper, Oakley, Charles Smith, and Anthony Mason, way more stacked than the Rockets. Number 2, the 1975 Golden State Warriors. The team went 48-34 overall, led by superstar Rick Barry, the only player most young fans today can name on that team, unless they're diehard Golden State fans. One of the biggest carry jobs all time, the 6'7" small forward doesn't get enough credit for his brilliance because he was hated by everybody around the league, even his teammates. Averaged 30.6 points, 6 rebounds, 6 assists. An absolute travesty he didn't win MVP that season because the players voted against him. The second best player, Jamal Wilkes, a 21-year-old rookie. Before he was a star, averaged 14.2 points. Role players Butch Beard, Clifford Ray, Jeff Mullins, and Charles Johnson, all role players. Some of these players were all-stars in different seasons. Down 3-2 to the Bulls, Dubs came back 1-7, already a successful season after narrowly missing the playoffs the previous year. Alpha Dog Barry took matters into his own hands. The Bullets and Celtics each won 60 games. Whoever won the Eastern Conference Finals was almost a guaranteed lock for the title, led by prime Elvin Hayes and prime Unsell. Golden State's run so unexpected, they couldn't even play at their usual home gym since the Oakland Arena was already fully booked for that week. The ultimate disrespect, forced to play at the Cow Palace at Daly City instead. Washington had a 14-point halftime lead, but rookie Phil Smith off the bench dropped 20 points. Rick Barry 36 in Game 2, retook the lead the remaining seconds 1 by 1. Barry never took his foot off the pedal, 38 big points in Game 3, another double-digit comeback win in the final game, 96-95. Many expected a sweep in the finals, but it was a sweep the other way around. Barry Finals MVP averaged 29.5 points, second option Wilkes 11.5 points. Think about that, nobody else averaged over a dozen points for Barry's Warriors in the finals, sweeping the heavy favors, an improbable victory, something that doesn't get talked about enough. The 2004 Detroit Pistons is an absolute travesty. It's 2020 and none of these players on the roster has been elected to the Hall of Fame yet. An absolute disgrace. Talent-wise, most title teams have a superstar. Lakers, Shaq and Kobe. Ben Wallace, the lone star for the Pistons, made second team All-NBA. Perfect chemistry with perfect roles. Billups, an amazing leader. Hamilton, one of the best players without the ball. Prince and the two Wallaces, monsters on defense, Mehmet Kerr, Lindsey Hunter, Carlos Williamson, old Eldon Campbell, and Bus Darko off the bench. Before the season, nobody picked Detroit, a plus 1500 to win it all after acquiring Rasheed Wallace, the missing piece. One can argue this is the best defensive team all time, allowed under 80 points for the rest of the season after adding Sheed, gave up just 78.6 points in regulation for the playoffs, never allowed 100 points in any of the regular season games post-Wallace trade before the playoffs started, allowed the fewest amount of points for any playoff team after the shot clock era, knocked off Jay Kidd and Kenyon Martin's Nets in 7, locked up Jermaine O'Neal and Ron Artest Pacers to averaging under 74 points for the series. Multiple players made key defensive plays time after time, executed the perfect game plan against the Lakers, held the 4 stars outside of Shaq to under 40% shooting for the series. LA never cracked 90 once in the regulation. In terms of teamwork, this is one of the most balanced, constructed teams, maximizing their full potential without heavy talent. Perhaps the most unique champion all time. Legit no superstars, no clear-cut first option. Detroit almost repeated the following season. From the player's background, Billups a disappointing start for his career, counted out by multiple teams. Hamilton laughed at by Jordan during his Wizards days. Prince, the 23rd pick in the 02 draft, Rasheed's bad reputation with the Jailblazers, and Ben Wallace undrafted. Every one of the starters meshed perfectly. This team was ranked 24 in scoring in the regular season at 90.1 points, but tied for first for allowing the fewest opponents' points, 84.3. There's a reason why the famous phrase, defense wins championships, couldn't be more valid. Which one of these title teams do you think had the least amount of talent? Let me know in the comments below. Thank you so much for watching this video. Subscribe for more content, more good stuff coming soon. I love all of you. See you next time.